Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this latest episode of HBMA Live. Today we have two of your board candidates. We have Jenna Selover, who's President of Professional Billing and Management Services, and Kirk Reinitz, who's President of Advocate Radiology Billing. Janet and Kirk, welcome. Thank you both for joining me today.
Thank you for
Sure, thank
having
you.
me.
How are you both doing today? How are you doing out there?
Very well, thank you.
Hanging in there.
Well, that's the best I think we can all do these days. It's such strange times. So this is an opportunity for the members to get to know you. And before we get into the more professional side, related to HBMA, just wanted you both to share a little bit about your background. What brought you to the revenue cycle management industry, since it is sort of an unusual industry. So Janet, how about for you? How did you get involved in RCM, and what did you do before, and what sort of helped you with that transition?
My father was a dentist and my mother managed his practice. So I kind of grew up with revenue cycle and in that professional environment. Summer times I would work with my mom and help her with, back then we had pegboards and, little yellow cards to do accounting. But I learned the pluses and minuses, and I think that's was really invaluable. And my mom told me, she says, if you learn how to type, you can always have a job. So I'm a very good typist.
There you go.
And,
I won't race you then.
yeah. So my background has been in my DNA from the very beginning. And then I managed 2 orthopedic practices after I finished college. And from there, I have a passion for ortho. We happen to do multi-specialty billing, but we do a lot of ortho as well.
Mm-hmm. Great. And how about you, Kirk? What was your path, again, to getting into the revenue cycle management industry?
Sure, I'm a CPA by training and worked in public accounting for a little bit in DC before I figured out that's not what I want to do with my life. And I went to work for a company in Baltimore they're called Medical Management Sciences. Some folks who have been around a while might remember them. But it was a radiology billing and management firm, and I started out on the finance side, on the practice management side, and then did a stint in operations. So really got to see both sides of it. And that company was eventually sold. I think I was there for 7 or 8 years. It was eventually sold to Per Se at the time. I believe it was Per Se at the time. And a colleague of mine at that point figured, hey, we could probably do this too. And we broke off and started Advocate in 1998. And our first client was in Columbus, Ohio, and that's why I live here.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. And you've both been members of HBMA for a long time, a number of years, looking at your membership history.
Yeah, 20 years, or I think 20 plus for me.
Wow.
Pretty close to that for me as well. I'm not exactly sure, but somewhere 15, 20 years, yeah. So
you've seen a lot of changes, initiatives over the years, a lot of also leadership.
Yes. HBMA changed my life when it came to my billing service. I went to my first HBMA and got to know the Bob and Dave show. And, they did a lot of benchmarking and what your business should look like, what your P&L should look like. It was so life-changing for me in the business. It really made a big difference for me.
That's great. So
yeah, I would agree. It's played a big part in our development as well. Just to read the quality of the resources, and again, the speakers and the education. When I can remember when I was younger and first joined, it really kind of, to me, it just kind of pulled the industry together. I always saw it in bits and pieces and fragmented, but you never saw it in kind of the way that the HBMA looks at it, and it was very beneficial.
To provide you that broader perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I've noticed when I came on board with HBMA is just how closely knit the community is.
Yeah.
Something I've worked for a lot of different trade associations and professional societies, but the level of sharing with HBMA members, I think, is really special. I haven't seen that to the same degree in other organizations. I don't know if you sort of noted that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the sharing of ideas, the camaraderie, the I get it, kind of sympathy. We all know the problems that can be associated with this business. Working with physicians is interesting to say the least. And, I think the camaraderie has been invaluable. Absolutely. Knowing that people feel your pain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a very intense industry. I will say that. Yes.
Absolutely.
And here the members actually help you work through the pain too. I see them responding on the message board as well as others sharing.
Mm-hmm.
That message board is amazing. It really is. Just a quick question, and we got a little behind in our EDIs, ERAs, EFTs, and I put a message out there, and I probably got 5 or 6 different people, and found a fabulous guy in Chicago that is going to do that for us, and it's going to be wonderful.
That's great.
Yeah. So, and that's a powerful testimony about HBMA as well in the community.
Yeah.
And so this year you've decided to step up and get even more involved. I know you've both been involved in committees, but now you're running for the board. So, how did you first get involved in HBMA? Janet and Kirk, you both mentioned the education programming and going into conferences, but then you decided to get more active. Could you tell me a little bit about that? What prompted that and how you've gotten active in HBMA?
I can't really put my finger on it. I think somebody asked me to do it, and yeah. And I thought, I've been doing this for 34 years now, and maybe I have something to give back with the amount of experience that I have had, and the challenges and the ups and downs of this business, and maybe I can give a little bit of background and knowledge with my experience, and so why not share?
Yeah, mine is kind of similar to it. Just at this point in my career, I guess I've been doing this now for, 20 some years at Advocate, and probably an additional 6 or 7. And really, I don't know what it is at this point in my life, but I have the time now. So I just want to give back and do what I can for the HBMA.
Well, we appreciate that, both of you. I've gotten to know both of you through the committee work, and really have appreciated your engagement and willing to step up and get involved, and now involved, of course, at a different level within HBMA. The industry has changed so much over the last, 2-3 decades in which you've been involved. Where do you see it going? What do you see the next challenges that the industry needs to tackle, which of course then HBMA can help members, confront and overcome?
Well, I think that with reimbursements continuing to drop for physicians, we're constantly having to look at new and better ways of doing what we do, because we're not able to ask more. In fact, we're being stressed to get a lower percentage for less money. And so we're constantly trying to find new and better ways of doing that, whether that's outsourcing or whether it's through innovation. I think we have taken on robotics, and that has helped with certain functions that we have internally. I think AI is the thing that's coming, to get smart computers who can do the basic functions, and to kind of even have learned behavior. I'm interested to learn more about AI, but we are definitely trying to be on top of all of the new technology. But I think technology is where it's at.
Yeah, I would agree. Technology and consolidation. I think billing companies, practice, everything's getting bigger. Hospitals, practices, physician groups, everything's getting bigger. And I think that trend will continue, at least for the foreseeable future. But also, the rate of change seems crazy now. Like Janet said, with the, robotic process automation and AI. But when I think back, it's amazing. Like I'm not sure if the rate of change has increased or stayed the same, but there's always been a huge, learning curve and rate of change in this industry for the better, I think, because the technology that has been applied is generally improves productivity, lowers costs, but it's also improves quality. So I think we'll see those two, areas continue to intensify.
Yeah, for sure.
And among those changes, you probably remember when you had to, everyone was submitting forms on, on paper or sending in faxes.
I remember.
Yeah.
I do remember. Yeah, I remember submitting the forms on paper. I know all the other stuff was on paper, but yeah, I can remember mailing out boxes of HICFAs.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot. And now you're thinking about actually we're talking about, having a computer do the sort of processing for us through the use
Yeah.
of AI. So what a change. So, and then,
Absolutely.
it's interesting, Jen, you're talking about the reimbursement rates, and that's, I think, probably a much bigger sort of policy decision and discussion as well, but it'd be interesting to have that with an HBMA at some point. That's something that we ought to look at in terms of our advocacy work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we find contracting is very difficult as far as negotiating rates. Nobody wants to negotiate anymore. You basically get in it, and you're lucky just to get on the panel, and then hopefully at some point down the road you can negotiate. But they just aren't negotiating, so you're getting 80% of Medicare on some of these, these payers, and it's terrible.
Wow. Yeah. Have either of you ever been involved in the commercial payer relations committee? I'm just curious. I know you're not there now, but I know that's a committee that has engaged in these discussions with payers, but not necessarily about reimbursement rates, about sort of other pain points we have with them.
Yeah. I read something the other day, and I'm not even sure where it is, but they're looking at consolidating denial reasons across the board. And I thought that was very interesting because, you can then automate more of your processes by, if every payer had the same denial reasons, then you could much more automate it and make it easier to work your AR, even put some of it under robotics or AI, and have that if it was more formalized. And I can't remember where I read it, but it's actually in the works right now, which would be wonderful.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I'd be interested to learn more about that and see how we can support that effort.
Yeah,
What
absolutely.
you can bring to the table.
Standardization is always good. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
in this field, we all know that just doesn't happen very easily.
It's very,
systems to work, we work with Epic, which is, that's its own dog, but, we work with other systems as well, but we can't combine our reporting and anything because Epic won't let us have access. So, Epic is its own reporting and the other systems are their own reporting. So it'd be nice to have them all be talking together.
Right. The data fields that they, export in their reports or probably don't match across the different systems and other challenges, like that. I mean, it's interesting. I wonder if anyone's ever done a sort of a data map of those different systems and how they, how to translate, what one works compared to another.
Yeah.
I know that's something, another organization I've worked with in the past actually had a pretty concerted effort around that, trying to harmonize different systems and look at that. Even the way they name fields, and one might be first name versus F name versus name F, and they all mean the same thing. But of course, it impedes the ability to work across different platforms.
Yeah. Yeah, they've just made it really hard to do that.
Yeah, everybody has their unique set of codes. It's very difficult. Even the way that UOBs are structured, it makes it very, very difficult.
Yeah. And Jan, it's interesting. You came to revenue cycle management. You said your father was a dentist, or yeah. So, but dentistry is a area of practice where we don't really see much in RCM. It seems like at least not a lot of members serve that sector.
Yeah, I don't do dental billing either. There are companies that specialize in dental billing, but I thought it would be a little hard to outsource dental billing because you have to submit x-rays and all that for authorizations, or at least you used to. I don't really know now. But I worked with an ortho who I roomed with his daughter at college, and that's how I got into the business per se. He basically said, Janet, come manage my practice. You're going to learn. I said, well, I don't know anything about medical billing. And he says, you're smart. You're going to figure it out. And that's exactly what I did.
Right.
This is the same orthopedist that when I had my daughter sent me a telegram that said, now that the cow's on the ground, get back to work.
Well, at least you have a sense of humor, huh?
Yeah.
So
That's the Modesto language, I would imagine. Huh?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Only farmers would get that one.
Yeah.
Or ranchers, I should say. Yeah.
And then Kirk, so you started out in the DC area. I think that's interesting. You said as a CPA, right?
Mhm.
And then you decided, were you working for a federal agency at that point or a private
No,
firm?
it's a public accounting firm.
Okay. But you decided, DC wasn't the place. Our office is here within the
Yeah,
Beltway,
yeah.
but it's
It didn't have anything to do with DC. It was the accounting part that got me.
gotcha. Yeah. Okay. And then made your way to Baltimore and then up to Ohio.
Hmm.
So, and then, but those skills that you have related to accounting have come in handy, I'm sure, throughout your career.
Oh, for sure. I mean, billing is, it's disparate information like we talked about, and then numbers and trends. So absolutely, that's a huge amount of numbers and trends in medical billing for sure.
Hmm. And then,
And
oh, go ahead, Janet. Sorry.
planning firms and billing firms are very similar. I've found.
Mhm.
I work closely with my CPA firm, and you run the practice is very similar. It's still all labor. Labor is your primary overhead. And so it's interesting the way that those two things interact with each other. I think the background in accounting is wonderful.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
it's
just being an accountant is the part I didn't care for.
there you go. But that knowledge, that perspective has come in handy, in your service on the finance committee of HBMA as well. So
Oh, for sure, yeah.
I
Mhm.
appreciate your involvement over there. And it's a perspective you'll bring to the board. So it's a sort of a
Yeah,
different mindset.
yeah, it's a very good background. I would agree.
Yeah. Yeah. And then so how about so personally? So we've talked about the professional. So who is Janet? Who is Kirk? What do you do on the weekends? Do you have any sort of hobbies or interests? I know these days some of them it's harder to engage in. If you love to travel, of course we know that's not really possible now. But you're just curious. What should we know about you? What's interesting? Fun facts.
Fun facts.
Fun facts. Yeah.
Well, I've lived in the valley for most of my adult life. I'm married to a wonderful man, Barry, and I have two daughters and five grandchildren. And I'm 63. I'm not sure if I have any intention of retiring ever because I really don't have a lot of hobbies other than work.
Uh-huh.
Work has been my life for 34 years, and I don't see myself retiring. And if I did, I would do something very in the same field, maybe consulting or something like that. But I don't see myself getting out of this business. I think my favorite hobby is to remodel. My husband hates it, but it's like my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world.
Well, you need money to do that, so you got to keep working.
Yeah. I love my grandchildren. Luckily I have two very healthy children with healthy marriages, and so I don't have to raise my grandchildren. I just get to enjoy them and send them home.
That's great.
So that's really nice. We love to travel. We've been to Europe. We've traveled. I've been to India a couple different times.
Oh,
So
wow.
traveling and getting to know the world, and really finding that the world, we're all the same. The world is flat. I mean, it really is. There's a book about that, but it's true. So I'm always a sponge for learning better ways and new things and experiencing new adventures. And so being healthy is important to me. Exercise, and mentally and physically, I think those are all really important things for me.
That's important to take care of yourself in that way.
Yeah.
And it sounds like you do have some hobbies, even if they're not sort of formal, like your gardening or painting, but you've got interests in whether that's traveling or your grandkids.
I've taken golf lessons 7 times and I still can't golf.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes it's good to know what's not on the list as much as it is what you want to put on the list. So that's helpful too.
I'm still bound and determined to learn to play golf.
Well, or if you want, it could be your Everest. You keep going at it, eventually you'll get to the top.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
so how about you, Kirk?
I am married to my wife, Michelle. We've been married for a long, long time, 28 years, I think. 4 adult children, I'm proud to say. Nobody's married yet, but I have my last is in college, so we're empty nesters pretty much the entire year, which is very, very different after, starting and running a business and raising 4 kids. To actually have some spare time or time to do things that you enjoy is a little unique. So that's part of the reason I'm starting to give back to the HBMA. My son and I are avid skiers. We definitely like to go skiing out west a couple times a year, which we've been prohibited from recently with COVID.
Right.
Probably the longest break I've had from skiing in probably 30 years. And we like, my son and I, and just me in general, I'm in a couple of clubs here. I love to backpack and hike and basically do anything outdoors, preferably in really cool places, not Ohio. Ohio's a little flat and not as dramatic as some of the other scenery in the U.S. And we enjoy traveling. We've been to Europe a couple times. We really enjoy traveling again, which has been kind of crimped lately.
Yeah, I know what you mean. We'll have to all swap travel stories when we get together next week in Dallas, and maybe some photos online. So, Kirk, you've both been on some meetings with me and seen some of my, I think fun backgrounds, some of the places I've been to that I like to think about, even though I can't be there now. So I'd love to get a recommendation from both of you, especially Kirk, because you're into the sort of more ski locations. I don't know if either of you have been up to Banff up in Canada. That's one of my favorite places.
I was scheduled. I had reservations in Banff last year that got canceled because we couldn't leave the country, and so that's where I just rolled them forward. So the end of February, we're supposed to be in Banff for a week.
Well, we'll chat before you go. It's a beautiful place. Hopefully, yeah,
that's what I've heard. Yeah.
Right. I guess you'll be there probably prime ski season then in February.
That's the plan.
Yeah.
If they get any snow.
Yeah, I don't know. Last year they did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I know in California, our Sierras we're so dry right now. I hope that we get some snow this year.
Yeah.
But then one year, not too long ago, you had like a record snowfall, but who knows?
That's true. That's true.
Yeah. Fortunately, you're in the valley. We're chatting earlier. You said you don't have to worry about the fires, which is fortunate. They've been so tragic in California each year, getting hit with them.
We get hit with the smoke in the valley because it comes down through the valley. But this year, for some reason, the wind has been going east, and so northeast, and so it kind of avoids us altogether, which has been really good. We've had a couple bad days, but man, like Reno and stuff like that, they're just
I've seen the pictures.
Yeah,
awful.
Well, we wish the best to all those who have to. I mean, all these disasters, whether it's Hurricane Ida or the Camp Fire, or all the interesting the names of the fires in California, which something I never even thought about until a couple years ago when I started hearing the names. But we will get through it as we'll get through the pandemic. This will all be behind us one day. We will. It's just a matter of time, and then then life will return to something like normal, different from before, but something like normal. And then Kirk, you'll be one of the first probably going to Banff in the spring, and then or late winter, and then hopefully we'll all be able to get out and like the first buds in the spring reemerging in the world, right?
It's gonna get busy. Travel season will be busy.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thank you both for joining me. Look forward to catching up next week. And like I said, I'd love to just swap, personal stories, travel stories. Figure out where some of your favorite places are to visit, some of your favorite food places, because I'm a foodie. So, and well, there we go. We could definitely swap recommendations. I understand Dallas has got some great places for barbecue. So I hear. So.
Sure.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, we'll see you next week in Dallas. Thank you both for joining me, and everybody, thanks for joining this webcast. Take care, everyone. Be well.
Sure.